Hello and welcome back to the United Liberty Party YouTube channel. Now before we get into this video, which is about different types of voting systems, or at least discussing what could be an alternative to just ranked choice voting as an alternative to first past the post voting. I do want to clarify something from the last video. I I got a comment saying that it's not fair to blame the voters for the way they vote. And I just want to clarify, I'm not trying to blame the voters for voting the way they are. What I am trying to say though is that the voters um, can vote for third parties, and that they should get out and campaign third parties. They should tell the family, the friends about the third parties out there, um, instead of thinking that or having the mindset of there's only two parties that will win. Um, that's what I meant by trying to discuss that video. I apologize if that was unclear to anyone out there. Um, but let's get into this video about different types of voting systems. I have a list of different voting systems right here, or technically the same voting systems, just a little bit different than the first past the post. Although that is somewhat talked about in this kind of video. Um, if you don't know what first past the post is, I'll put it in very simple terms. It's basically you have a constituency, um, and you have people who are running in that constituency, and whoever wins the vote wins that constituency, and they become the sole member, um, or they become the person that represents that that constituency in a national legislator legislative body, basically. And now we're gonna start off with the obvious kind of alternative, which has been talked a lot, and you could say could be the best alternative because it's already used in states like Maine and Alaska and other locations within the United States, and that is ranked choice voting or ranked voting, which is basically just you have a ballot, and depending on basically the what your country or voting system is, or what they allow, not voting system, but what they allow within the country that you're in, um, who use it. So Maine and Alaska, um, are the two steps we're using here since we're talking about the United States. Um, what it is basically is you have a list of candidates, obviously, and you basically mark down which ones you want to vote for. So basically, what it is you have, depending on what is allowed, you can have only three, or you could vote for as many as you want. So how it goes is, let's say you have um, five candidates. Let's say the names are Dave Winter, Shannon Hill, um, Ruby Goldberg, um, Ethan Smith, and Fed Jones, basically like Scooby Doo. So what you would do is, depending on how you're allowed to vote, you would either pick three of those people. So let's say Fred Jones is one, Ethan Smith is two, and um, who else? I say Dave Winter is third. Um, so that's what you would do, and then those three count as a vote. However, they could also allow you to vote for all of them, and that would allow you to um, vote for as many as you want. Obviously, they still have to pick the top person. So basically let's say out of everyone in the constituency, uh, like 30% vote for David Wolf, not David Wolf, but David Winter, um, and then 36% vote for well, David Winter's the number one choice, and let's say 34%. Um, I don't know. Let's just say 34% vote for um, Ethan Smith, and then 36% vote for um, let's say um, what's the name I said? Fred Jones. It's 36 vote for and Fred Jones is 36%. People chose him as the first choice. Um, that basically means that um, you know that Fred Jones is first with and would win, and then he become the candidate, but well, he would win the constituency. I'm sure there's other methods and different ways that they could count the vote, but that's just the one I'm gonna go with. Now, the one I want to talk about is party list proportional representation. Now, this is something I haven't heard people like Andrew Yang talk about. I actually had the chance to ask him the question, but I unfortunately did not ask him the question. I was in a video conference. Well, it wasn't really a video conference, but it was an event that I went to that he was a speaker at, and I really want to ask him this, but I just wasn't sure if he knew what it was, and I didn't want to interrupt the whole thing and have to explain what proportional or party proportional representation was. I probably should have, but uh, I'm not the most outgoing person. But basically, what proportional representation is that um, is basically this. It basically it takes like the percentage of votes that a party receives in an election and allocates seats to that party. So let's say, let's use Japan as an example. So they have first past the post voting, but they also have proportional representation. So let's say in um, Okinawa, not Okinawa, but Osaka is what I meant. Also, you can use Okinawa too. Within Osaka, there's different constituencies, um, uh, and obviously, it, Osaka is a prefecture itself, but within that prefecture, there's voting constituencies, and I don't know off the top of my head how many. Let's just say that there's 12. Um, uh, yeah, 12 constituencies, and let's say the Japanese Innovation Party, or was it Innovation Japan? The original name was Initiatives from Osaka, but I'm gonna call them Japanese Innovation Party. Let's say they won. Let's just kind of do the results. Let's say they won all but three um, of those constituents. Obviously, that's not the actual number of constituents within Osaka, but this is just a hypothetical theory, okay, or hypothetical example, not theory. And they win all but three. So um, they win eight of the 12. And the last three go to, let's say, the Liberal Democratic Party, which did not actually happen in the actual election. I'm kind of basing off of the real election, but in my hypothetical scenario, the Liberal Democrats win the three. Anyway, before we get off topic with hypothetical um, examples, we are going to talk. Let's talk about how the seats are allocated. So basically, let's say that the that the proportional representation that there are 17 seats up because initiative Japanese Innovation Party won the most percentage of votes. Um, well, they won the most constituency votes. They would get, let's say, 17. So let's say they would get maybe 4 of those seats that was allocated to them, and then another 4 would be um, given to the Liberal Democratic Party because they won 3. And um, what basically then happens is the other 9 seats basically go to other small third parties. So in the United States, let's say, um, I don't know, Ohio 13. The let's say Republicans win um, the constituency. Um, oh, well, see, well, actually, let's say this. Let's say the Republicans win. Let's say Ohio hypothetically is broken up into 13 different constituencies or districts. Republicans win the most districts. Let's say if it's 13, let's say they win 10. That leaves the other 3 won by Democrats. And let's say the number of seats allocated for proportional representation, which is up, um, would be, let's just say again, 17. Just this is hypothetical. Um, this is not like actually like how Ohio is broken up. But so Ohio would have then 17 proportional seats or list seats, which can be either open or closed. Uh, Open being that anyone can vote for them. Well, they can vote for who's going to win that seat. It goes to they're voting for the candidate who would get that seat. While closed is basically the party or the electoral committee will pick and choose which people will get those allocated proportional list seats. But getting back to who would win the seats, so Republicans win 13, and then not 13, but 10 of those constituencies within Ohio. Then Democrats win 3. Now, what would happen is that let's say we have 17 list seats. Now, what would happen is Republicans would, let's say, get 4 of those seats, and then Democrats would get the other 4 of those seats because they actually won constituencies. Then, based off of the party vote, how many people vote for the party, let's say those other 9 seats go to the parties like the Libertarian Party. They get, let's say, 3 seats. Well, no, because 3 would mean that they get 12, but there's 13. Well, yeah, let's say 12. Well, not 12, but they get um 3 of those seats. That gives them that means that that's only 1 seat. I mean, because now 12 seats have been taken up. And let's say the Constitution Party in this scenario gets the 4th amount of votes, party votes. Then they would get that last remaining seat within the House of Representatives, because we use this for representatives. You can use this for senators too, but the way America works is that each state only gets 2 senators. Um, so it'd be kind of hard to do with that, but let's just but we'll make it easy and just say it's for House of Representatives. So that's basically how proportional representation would work, at least part of proportional representation. Now there is also mixed member proportional representation, uh, which basically voters get 2 votes, one to decide the representative for the single seat constituency, and one for a political party. So basically, um, it's it's basically just first past the post voting, um, but mixed with partyless proportional representation. So basically, seats in the legislature are filled first, um, and then second by party candidates that are based on the percentage of the party vote, which is basically just the nationwide or region-wide votes that the party receives during the election. So this is what I think might be a better system than just ranked choice voting. Um, I mean, obviously you can argue that ranked choice voting is probably the better one because states like Maine and Alaska use it, but I would argue against ranked choice voting. Because Andrew Yang has been saying that's the way to get third parties in. Um, but I would argue against ranked choice voting because we have seen that Maine and Alaska have been dominated by Republicans and Democrats. Although Maine right now um, is independent, Angus King is independent, but he does caucus with the Democrats, which again kind of defeats the purpose of being an independent. Well, I won't say being independent. Obviously, you can be independent and still be like a third party within the national legislative bodies. But I think that leads to a bigger question about, well, if ranked voting was a superior way to get third parties in, then how come third parties aren't actually getting in with ranked choice voting? As we see with Alaska, both of its senators are, um, again, Republican, and in Maine, it's basically Republican versus Democrat. Angus King was a Democrat before he became an independent, um, so it's pretty much dominated by the two-party system. So personally, in my case, I would say ranked choice voting hasn't actually made a difference within the United States in that it won't actually get third parties in the power, or not in the power, but into like the House of Representatives to have representation, um, because what could happen is you have like a full pot, well, not party list, but you have a full ballot list of individuals who end up just being part of the two same parties. So you can have let's take our 5 examples before, and let's put party affiliations to them. Now, obviously, they could be Constitution, Green, Libertarian, uh, Solidarity, Republican, Democrat. But what what I think would happen or is happening, especially in Maine and Alaska, is that is that all 5 candidates, they just affiliate themselves with either Republicans or Democrats, and if they do end up as independents, they're not acting independently, although they could, which again brings up a different question of independence, but that's not something I plan on talking about. Independent uh, office holders can obviously affiliate with either party if they want, or they don't have to. They could be like a third party themselves, but but the other independents that probably either caucus with Republicans or Democrats, and it ends up not really changing the two-party system within the United States, and you still have the same two parties, and you don't actually get um, different parties. So let's say we take a more conservative party and more leftist party, more progressive party. I guess leftist, whatever you want to call it. So let's take the Peace and Freedom Party and the Constitution Party. Let's pair them up against the Republicans and Democrats. What would happen with ranked choice voting? Um, because you could technically vote for as many candidates as you want, people would only choose the the Republicans and Democrats still. It doesn't change that doesn't change the the fact that the parties won't get elected. Now, if say um, if they had to choose three, um, if they were forced to choose three, then perhaps maybe a third party can. So let's use, I don't know, South Carolina for example, because it's not true. So in the last 2020 election, there was a Democrat, a Republican, Constitution Party person, and let's say people were voting, like ranked choice voting, and they had to choose the top three that they want to vote for. So they felt the top three, and the Republican got the most first place votes, the Democrat got the second most, and the Constitution Party got the third most. Now, what could happen is that if they because they choose the top three, then you could possibly get the Constitution Party guy into office. Now, that's using basically, well, you allocate those seats who voted for. Now, I think the system that Andrew Yang has been talking about, and the system that I think most people think of or associate ranked choice voting with, um, would be basically the Republican still gets in office. He got the most first place votes, so he's the one that gets in the office. Now, I don't really remember what they were allocating for or what kind of ranked choice voting system that they were allocating for. But I just use scenarios where you could have all three get the seat because they got first, second, and third place because you basically force people to vote for the top three. Um, or basically people will vote for the top three, but still only one person gets the seat. And I think that mixed member proportional representation or partyless proportional representation is probably a better way or a better alternative than ranked choice voting. Because we have ranked choice voting in states like Maine and Alaska, and I don't think they are actually helping third parties get elected. Um, I think proportional representation, mixed member or partyless proportional representation, um, is probably a better alternative to first past the post voting solely. Obviously, you want to mix first past the post voting with perhaps proportional representation like Japan does, and you could um, have the the uh, the different third parties within the United States. But that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comment section below um, what you guys think is probably a better electoral system. Is it ranked choice voting, or is it proportional representation? Not open list, but party list or mixed member proportional representation. So we thank you all for joining us here at the United Labor Party YouTube channel. Be sure to comment down below your opinion, subscribe, and visit our website at unitedlaborparty.net to read more about our policies. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and we hope you will join us in our fight to change America. Thank you.